Welcome to episode 116 of Books and Bites. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the essential elements that really come together to create a book. And we'll be using Charles Dickens' powerful novel, A Tale of Two Cities, as our guide. Think of this as understanding the very building blocks that make a story resonate.
That's right. And A Tale of Two Cities, it's more than just its compelling historical narrative, set against that backdrop of huge societal change in England and France, leading up to the French Revolution. It really offers us a remarkable opportunity. You'll see how Dickens masterfully weaves together setting, character, plot, theme, symbolism, conflict, and foreshadowing. It all combines to deliver an enduring literary experience.
Okay, so let's start at the foundation, the setting. Dickens, he immediately grounds us in London and Paris, 1775. Even in that very first chapter, The Period, you're struck by the starkly different atmospheres he creates in these two major centers.
Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating to observe here is how Dickens uses this duality. It's not just a backdrop. It's an active force shaping everything that unfolds. Consider England. We're presented with a society grappling with high levels of crime alongside a really brutal legal system. This creates a palpable sense of unease, systemic injustice. You feel it right from the start.
Absolutely. And then across the channel in France, the societal problems, they take on a different but, equally disturbing form. You encounter this incredibly wealthy, sort of out-of-touch aristocracy, completely oblivious to the growing anger and desperation of the common people. Dickens makes it pretty clear that the monarchy has no real grasp of the revolutionary forces gathering momentum. It's like he's showing you two distinct but equally precarious social structures about to collapse.
Exactly. And this initial contrast in societal ills, the crime in England versus the deep-seated depression in France, it immediately establishes the fundamental conflicts that will drive the entire narrative. It's not simply about two different places. It's about two distinct forms of societal decay that will ultimately lead to different, yet tragically interconnected, forms of upheaval. Think about how that initial understanding colors your perception of the characters.
Right. Speaking of characters, Book the First introduces us to some key individuals whose lives become intertwined in this historical moment. We first meet Jarvis Lorry and his enigmatic mission, summed up in that phrase, recalled to life. For you, that phrase alone should spark some curiosity, shouldn't it?
It certainly should. Laurie's journey from London to Dover, carrying this cryptic message, it immediately introduces an air of mystery. And it hints at that overarching theme of resurrection, both literally and metaphorically, that you'll see develop throughout the story. Then we're introduced to Lucie Manette, who's learning her father actually survived after all those years in prison. Consider the emotional impact of that revelation on her.
And then there's Dr. Manette himself, his initial portrayal. This broken man, compulsively making shoes in that tiny room. It's such a vivid and affecting image. It powerfully conveys the psychological damage, the trauma from his 18 years in the Bastille.
Precisely. His shoemaking is more than just a repetitive task. It's a tangible manifestation of his fractured mind trying to find some order amidst the chaos. And Lucie's arrival, it acts as a potential catalyst for his healing. It immediately introduces that powerful theme of redemption through familial love. We also can't overlook the early appearance of Monsieur and Madame Defarge. They have their own deep, significant connections to Dr. Manette's past, adding layers of complexity and foreshadowing the revolutionary fervor to come.
So you can see how these initial character introductions are far from random. They're intricately connected, immediately setting the narrative in motion, and they tap into those core themes of memory, trauma, and, the possibility of renewal. Now let's explore how Dickens begins to weave these characters and their individual circumstances into a larger, more intricate plot.
Okay. In Book the First, the initial plot developments are relatively direct. Laurie's journey with the recall-to-life message, the very emotionally charged discovery of Dr. Manette, and their subsequent journey back to England with Lucie, this establishes the immediate personal stakes for these central characters that you'll be following.
But then as you get into Book the Second, aptly titled The Golden Thread, the narrative scope really starts to expand, doesn't it? We're introduced to Charles Darnay's trial for treason in England and the unexpected intervention of Sydney Carton. Carton, through that dramatic legal maneuver, exploiting his striking resemblance to Darnay, manages to secure his acquittal.
Yeah, and what's particularly noteworthy here is how Dickens begins to interlace these seemingly disparate narrative threads. Darnay's trial in England, while appearing separate from the growing unrest in France, it subtly underscores the interconnectedness of the two nations and that pervasive atmosphere of suspicion and paranoia that defined the era. And Carton's dramatic actions, driven by his sharp observation, introduce a really complex character, one burdened by unfulfilled potential, yet possessing this hidden capacity for profound selflessness. You also get those early, potent symbolic moments, like the spilled wine in Chapter 5. It serves as a stark visual premonition of the people's desperate hunger and the bloodshed that's coming. Consider how these early plot points start creating a sense of rising tension, building anticipation for what lies ahead.
Which seamlessly leads us to the rich tapestry of themes and symbolism that Dickens masterfully employs right from the outset. We've already touched on resurrection, but the theme of social injustice practically leaps off the page in those early chapters, right? The stark divide between the opulent aristocracy and the starving peasantry in France forms a central, undeniable conflict.
Absolutely. The glaring disparity between the privileged few and the abject suffering of the many in France is a dominant thematic element you encounter immediately. Dickens doesn't shy away from depicting the callous indifference and moral decay of the aristocracy. Then, woven throughout the narrative, you perceive this underlying sense of fate or destiny, the feeling that the lives of these characters are inextricably linked, moving towards some predetermined conclusion. It prompts you to consider the forces, both internal and external, that shape human lives.
And the symbolism is so layered and effective. That mail coach with its fearful passengers in Chapter 2, it's far more than just transport, isn't it? It reflects a pervasive insecurity, suspicion, and mistrust that characterize the time. And as we discussed, Dr. Manette's shoemaking becomes this incredibly potent symbol of his long imprisonment and that deep psychological trauma.
And consider the significance of Madame Defarge's knitting. Initially, it might just seem like a mundane domestic activity, but it quickly becomes chillingly apparent. She's meticulously crafting a registry of names destined for the guillotine. It stands as this powerful symbol of the revolution's relentless, unforgiving nature, and how personal vendettas become dangerously intertwined with the larger political upheaval. These early themes and symbols, they aren't just decoration, they resonate deeply throughout the entire narrative. They add significant layers of meaning and subtly foreshadow the tragic events yet to unfold.
Which naturally brings us to the building conflict and the skillful way Dickens uses foreshadowing to keep you, the reader, completely engaged. Even in these early chapters, you can feel this palpable tension, not just between individuals, but between entire social classes in France. And Darnay's legal troubles in England, while resolved for the moment, strongly suggest a hidden past, connections that are clearly going to resurface and have significant consequences down the line.
What's crucial to recognize is how Dickens subtly plants these seeds of what's to come. The blatant obliviousness of the French aristocracy, highlighted right in the opening, and later embodied by figures like Monseigneur and the Marquis, serves as stark foreshadowing of their impending violent demise. That vivid incident of the spilled wine is another prime example, a visceral premonition of the rivers of blood that will flow during the Revolution. These early instances of conflict and foreshadowing create this persistent sense of unease and heightened anticipation, compelling you to delve deeper into the unfolding drama.
So as you can see, even in these initial sections of A Tale of Two Cities, Dickens establishes this incredibly intricate and compelling groundwork. He paints a vivid, contrasting sense of place with his dual setting, introduces unforgettable characters whose lives are already intertwined with destiny, sets the initial plot in motion while masterfully hinting at much larger conflicts, weaves in profound themes like resurrection and social injustice, employs potent symbolism to enrich every aspect, and skillfully uses conflict and foreshadowing to build an almost unbearable level of suspense. It's really the seamless interplay of all these elements that makes the book so profoundly impactful.
Precisely. Dickens, even early on, showcases a remarkable command of his literary craft. He demonstrates how essential these fundamental components are to creating a truly immersive, thought-provoking, and ultimately unforgettable reading experience. A Tale of Two Cities really stands as a brilliant illustration of how setting, character, plot, theme, symbolism, conflict, and foreshadowing aren't isolated devices. They're intricately connected threads within this rich, complex tapestry that just draws you in completely.
Absolutely. If you've never had the chance to read it, or maybe if it's been some time since you last visited this incredible story, we wholeheartedly encourage you to dive into A Tale of Two Cities. Experience firsthand how these essential elements work together.
Grab a copy of the book from the link in the description, and subscribe to Books and Bites.
Finally, considering all the fundamental elements of a book we've explored today through the lens of A Tale of Two Cities, how do you think these core components contribute to the lasting impact and enduring relevance of classic literature? It's definitely something for you to consider.